This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a beautiful sunrise safari. As you can see, the sun has just started to come up, and it is a beautiful, beautiful day. There's not a breath of wind, there's a bit of mist around. It's the perfect early winter's morning. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Marcel, and you should see a cloth fairly shortly, other than Marcel's thumb, just to wipe, because there's a bit of cold air in the area, and that means that our little lenses get bit foggy, so I do apologize about that. But it is a very warm welcome to all the kids that are joining us this morning. Hopefully you are all well rested and you slept well and you're ready for a epic safari. And if you are and you want to ask us questions, remember you can send your questions to kids questions at WildEarth.tv, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. For everybody else that's watching, well, we'll get to you guys a little bit later, and we'll let you know how you guys can ask questions when we are finished with the kids portion of the safari. Now, I'm busy looking for any signs of some tracks. This morning, apparently on the dam cam, there was a report of a leopard sawing about an hour ago, but it was very far away, so no one's really sure where it is. So we're going to check around for that and see if we find any sign. I was just checking this junction because this area here is a place where a lot of leopards like to walk. They like to come off quarantine or from the west, and then they go up Wildtele access or down Wildtele access. But this morning it looks like it was just Ribbon and friends that walked here during the course of the night. So we're going to carry on and try and see. The plan that I have for this morning is to try and head westwards again towards that Simambili area, just to see if the Nkuhumas trailed those buffalo from last night, pick up if there's any sign of them, and then obviously, of course, any sign of maybe a leopard somewhere around. I do actually want to get into a leopard that was seen last night on Buffalo's Hook, but I'll get into that just now because I'm not the only one out this morning. David is also out, and I'm pretty sure he wants to say good morning to all of you.
Good morning. We just stopped up on the ridge, waiting for the sun to get a little bit higher and warm our faces. As Tristan was saying, it's a lovely winter morning, but quite chilly. All wrapped up, got our jackets and gloves on, but it won't be cold for long. Once that sun gets a bit higher, it's going to get nice and warm. My name is David Hancock. On camera we have BK this morning, so looking forward to what the morning brings, see what we can find. Just started on a slow loop of quarantine, and our residents are around, our Impala and wildebeest. Looks like they spent a peaceful night. No one seems too alarmed or too upset. I haven't seen any leopard tracks crossing through quarantine, so I doubt they were disturbed in the evening. Lots of hyenas around camp though. A lot of hyena activity all night. Well, our plan this morning is to maybe go down to the Moati, see if anything has crossed over or through. See if we can pick up on anything interesting. But other than that, no particular direction, no particular hurry. Amani, good morning. You've asked what is the most common animal in Africa and what is the rarest? Well, the most common, I suppose by absolute number, would be to one of the migratory species, I would suppose. If you're going on the mammals, let's just go with the mammals to be a bit easier. In this part of the world, in South Africa particularly, we would have Impala. We don't really have too much migration here. We used to have a lot more migration many years ago when the bush was a bit more open, but that's no longer. Now we just have species that kind of stick to one place, and the ones that we see the most in this region are Impala. If you're going up north to the plains of East Africa, you might see many thousands of wildebeest, zebra. But as far as the mammal in Africa that holds the title for the most in number, I'm not exactly sure. My guess would be one of those. And the rarest, that's also a very good question. I suppose you could say one of the species that's highly poached. You get, or besides, that's actually going with human interference, but animals like pangolin and different species of rhino have become extremely rare over the past few years. And then of course you get your very rare predators like the Ethiopian wolf, almost endangered predator in Africa. So many species that are very rare, and I suppose in being so rare it's difficult to be 100% sure of their numbers. But in this area, just based on what I see the most Impala and I see the fewest, say pangolin would be in this region. The rarest, to me rare meaning what I don't see very often. As far as the actual number, I'm not 100% sure. Coming down to Philemon's Dip, we're going to continue the search, hopefully see something rare, something we've been chatting about. While we do that, let's send you back over to Tristan.
Sorry, Kenan, I'm not going to do it this way.
Right, so we are just cruising the western side of the boundary at the moment, and it would be nice to find something rare. I agree with David. I think something like an aardvark or a pangolin. For me personally, the one that I would want to see here that is rare is a caracal, which is a very small cat with pointy ears. And we've only ever had one caracal on Safari Live, as far as I understand, which was with Taylor a few years ago in 2017. But that's the only one we've managed to get live in almost 12 years of operating. So that's a very rare cat to find. The other one in this area that would be also incredibly rare is a striped polecat, which almost looks like a skunk. Very similar. There used to be one at Chitwa at the airstrip, but it hasn't been seen for years now. What else is incredibly rare here? Aardvarks, obviously, they are also rare. What else, Marcel?
Serval often.
Serval we don't see often, but they are a lot here. When we did the camera trap survey for Panthera, there was so many servals that came up on the camera traps. A lot of servals, a lot of genets, a lot of
Maybe that melanistic whitetail would be nice.
that would be a very cool thing. So Marcel's saying to me a melanistic white-tailed mongoose. So for those of you that don't know, we had a black mongoose here on Djuma. It's basically the same as a white-tailed in its structure, but it's completely black. So it's got too much melanin. And what that means is that for those of you that have dark hair, like myself and Marcel, although mine's going all grey now, so it's no longer dark, but for those of you that have dark hair, what you've got is a cell called melanin, or a substance called melanin, should I say, and the more melanin you have, the darker your hair will be. And so what happens with a melanistic animal or bird is that their body produces too much melanin, and therefore they lose their normal coloration. So let's say in something like a white-tailed mongoose, it would normally be a kind of grey color with this white tip to the tail, and this one is completely black. It's like a black leopard or a black panther. That is also melanistic, and the white lines you see in Ngala is the opposite of that. All right, so it's not that they're producing too much melanin, they're not producing enough, and therefore they become leucistic is the word for those. So that would be cool to see that melanistic mongoose. It wasn't actually far. It was right outside camp where we got that on the camera trap. It was at Quarantine. So I wonder if it's still cruising around. I've never seen it personally, but it would be a really cool thing to... Yeah, I've got the photo. I must have a look at what the timestamp is on it. But very, very cool. And the reason why we know it was a melanistic white-tailed mongoose and not something else, like a water mongoose, which is also very dark, is because it's running side by side with another white-tailed mongoose. They're together, and you can actually see the difference between the two. I'll try to find the photo just now. It's going to take me a while because I'm going to have to dig it up from a very, 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 very long time ago. Any sign of anything on Triple M? No. Always when I get onto this road, you've got to kind of look up and down just in case, because on this road you can spot things far, 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 far away, and so it makes it easy to be able to, you know, work out which way you want to go. The other nice thing about Triple M today is that they dragged it yesterday with tires, so they smoothed this whole road. You see, look how much smoother it looks. So what they do is they put a whole bunch of tires on a triangular kind of metal piece, and then they drag it, and that just makes the roads a lot more comfortable to drive. But the spin-off from it is that it makes tracking much easier because it makes everything nice and soft and smooth, and so you can see the tracks when they go on here. You can see where they've walked. It's much easier to track when you've got this kind of a surface than if you didn't. Tansini is 13. This is a very in-depth question. You're asking about giraffe and why they have so much melanin in their tongues. That particularly because it doesn't see the light of day, it doesn't seem like it would be the right way to go. Well, the thing is with giraffe tongues is it's not actually that there's so much melanin. Is in our tongues are pink because we have a huge amount of blood vessels that are right close to the surface, which flushes our tongue that color. With giraffe, a lot of the blood vessels are lower down, and the area around those blood vessels is thickened, and that's to cope with obviously thorns. And so basically it's just those growths that are on the tongue lack blood vessels and therefore are a darker coloration than what you see on our tongues. Our tongues just have blood very, very close to the surface and therefore flush a more pink color than what theirs does. That's pretty much the short answer. It's not to do with melanin in their particular thing. Although a lot of giraffe do produce quite a lot of melanin, particularly males, and their skin color or their coat color, their fur goes quite dark, but the tongues is actually just to do with the blood and where it is on the surface, well, relative to the surface of the tongue itself. Right, so Mambili, are we going to go to you today? I think we should go to you today. I'm convinced that these Kahumas would have followed some buffalo because there were so many different buffalo around that I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have tried at least to follow them. So I'm convinced that it will be a worthwhile exercise to try and go and have a little look and see. And so I think we probably will go on to some Mambili, and while we do that, let's send you across to David. I'm not sure where he is, and I'm not sure whether or not he's had any luck yet.
Welcome back. We're just on Philemon's cut line looking at some tracks. Looks just seen these line tracks and just trying to ascertain what and when. I'm just going to drive along slowly and have a look. First it looked like one individual, and now I think it might be more. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, as I'm not from around here in Sabi Sands, I don't know the line dynamics too well. I do know the prides, but the areas that they generally move through, I'm still learning. Rana, you say I've talked about how common impalas are, and you're asking about if they're related to gazelles. Well, I suppose they would be, as an antelope. Anything more than that, I'm not too sure. No gazelles here in the Sabi Sands. Really is a lovely crisp morning. Well, Mr. Lion's walking down the road in a straight line, so that makes it easy. We're just going to keep following until maybe see a urination or something that give us a little bit more of an indication of time frame. Maybe some scat. But it does look like it's over vehicle tracks from yesterday, so maybe during the evening or even this morning. Giving a definite time to tracks, whether animal or human, it's never a very perfect science unless you have the exact time that you laid a track or a track was there that is then underneath the track that you're following. That's about the only way that you could actually pin it down to the hour or to the minute. Other than that, it's just kind of a vague generalization of time. By just looking at the track, it's very dependent on the surrounds and the weather and the wind. But if I drove this road last night and these tracks are on top of my tracks, that means it was after that. So that's at least a good start. I'm glad I got my gloves. My very favorite Aunt Mary sent me these gloves from the States, and they are very, very welcome. But while we carry on following these tracks and slowly start getting the joints nice and warm, I'm going to send you back over to Tristan, see what he's up to.
I'm actually alright, David. I'm right up on the crest at the moment, so I've got beautiful golden sunshine to my right. We're up high, which means it's not as cold, and so it's okay where I am. Where David is, though, around Philemon's, gets very cold. It's low-lying there, and so it's not a nice place in the winter to start the day. Anywhere along those drainage lines or the Mulawati gets very, very, very chilly, so I can sympathize with David, and I'm sure his aunt has saved him with gloves. It's one of the things that, as a guide, is the most important in winter. It's weird because it's not actually freezing cold, and probably if you were sitting still you wouldn't wear gloves, but due to the fact that you drive and you have your hands up and there's no protection from the wind, your hands go icy very, very quickly, and so gloves just help to kind of keep everything nice and warm, that's for sure. And so quite happy to have a pair of gloves. Unfortunately, though, most gloves don't last. They get absolutely hammered by the driving. So, you know, being on the steering wheel, normally the palm areas wear completely. So generally go through one a drive. All right, so our buffalo definitely crossed last night, the ones that we saw. Apparently I need a good pair of fluffy mittens. I can imagine fluffy mittens will get absolutely destroyed. So the reason why I'm going very, very slowly here is because the buffalo crossed, I'm trying to see if there's any lions on top of it going over as well. But it doesn't look like there is. It looks like just hyenas that were following these guys around. But maybe let's try and backtrack, because what could have happened is these guys could have lay up somewhere, and then the lions had a go at them and maybe caught one, or potentially didn't catch one, but then lay up where they had tried to hunt them. Once they've hunted them once or twice, they generally leave them alone then. So let's just try and see if we backtrack them, if we pick up any sign for the Nkumas. Maybe the Nkumas just decided buffalo wasn't on the menu, but I'd be surprised because they were close enough to these buffalo to have heard them last night. And generally, when you've got a big pride like the Nkumas are at the moment, even though the cubs are still quite small, it's still a lot of mouths to feed and a lot of meat that they need daily. And so I would have expected them to rather try and go and see if they could get some sort of a meal from these buffalo. Unless, of course, they had something else. Yes, last night came across a wildebeest or something like that. It's potentially happened as well. It would be annoying, Emma, you're right. Not really, as long as they hunted it on the Simamili, I'll be with our lions eating anything this morning. Certainly make life a lot easier to feed them. That's beautiful this morning. Oof. It's this kind of perfect winter day. The sun is out, like I say, there's a bit of mist. Perfect conditions to find a lion pride. All right. Onward we forge into Simamili. Let's go and see if we can find these Inkuhumas. And in the meantime, back across to David. Hopefully he's come out of Philemon's dip and onto a crest and is enjoying some sunshine and warming up.
Hello and welcome back. Just stopped at a crossroads here. The lion tracks are heading towards the Caracal line, unfortunately, so I think they've crossed over. We're just going to go verify that. But it is a lovely, quiet morning. I'm just going to listen for a sec. Hear the sounds of the bush come alive. Sorry, my voice is croaky. You're 12 years old. It's great to hear from you. You've asked, could I find us a hippo? And why do they spend so much time in water hiding away? We can definitely find a hippo. I saw some hippo yesterday at Chitwa Dam. And they will no doubt still be there. As you say, they do spend a lot of time in the water hiding away. And they're not necessarily hiding from anything except maybe the sun. They get a little bit sunburnt if they're not in the water during the daytime. But the water is their comfortable place. It's their place where they feel safe. It's like you might feel safe in a specific place in your house or your room. And to the hippo, that is where they feel safe. So they spend the majority of their time there. It's only when they get hungry and they have to eat that they'll come out of the water. And it's generally at night, between sunset and sunrise, when they leave the water and make long tracks through the bush, looking for nice green grass. What bird have we got up there, BK? Very far away, maybe a starling. Yep, it's a glossy starling waking up, waiting for the morning sun rays to warm it enough. Clever bird, goes to the top of the tree where the sun rays are hitting first. I think on these cold winter mornings, everything wants the morning sun. By about 3 o'clock in the morning, everything I think is quite frozen and ready for the ready for the sun to come. A lot of the viewers are saying this looks like a plump bird. I don't think it spent too much time at the drive-through. I think it's maybe just a bit ruffled, trying to stay warm. Oh, Naz, you're 10 years old. It's great to hear from you. Thank you for your question. You've asked, do animals at our reserve get sick or get the flu or like a cold? Generally, animals don't get the same sicknesses that you and me get, but they do get sick. There are many different diseases and viruses and infections that can attack animals. And sometimes they might not survive, other times they'll get better. But yes, animals can and definitely do get sick. I'm just going to unplug here, BK can tell me. Give me a feed. I just want to walk a few meters down here and see if these lion tracks crossed over there, because they were on this road and then they left the road, so I think they probably crossed over here. I just want to make sure without having to drive all the way there. Yep, and they did. So crossing through to the Gari cut line, but we'll go around just to verify. You never know. Sometimes they stop just short of the cut line and just lie there. Should we head around and make sure? Relic, you're 8 years old. You're asking where are all the ostriches, wondering where they are. We do have a couple ostriches here, but it's not very common. They are found in the more arid regions of our country, the drier regions, the more open areas where they can use their speed and their sight. I think here it's maybe a bit thick for them, a little bit easier to get eaten. Ostriches are very cool birds though, a little bit strange, very different and unique. But they do have huge eggs. I can't remember how many chicken eggs would fit into an ostrich egg. Maybe FC can Google that for me. My guess would be 16. What do you think, kids? Anyone got a guess of how many chicken eggs would fit into an ostrich egg? We'll come back to that question. So if you've got a guess of how many chicken eggs would fit into an ostrich egg, then send it through and we'll see who's right. How many do you think, BK? You think 14? BK thinks 14 chicken eggs in an ostrich egg. I think 16 chicken eggs in an ostrich egg. Remember, ostrich egg's pretty big. I suppose there's different sized eggs though. Sam, you think 24? That would be a very good protein shake. NJ, you think 7 eggs. Maybe really big ones, big chicken eggs. Aisha, you think 50 chicken eggs would fit into an ostrich eggs? Yeah, into an ostrich egg. That's a lot of chicken eggs. Maybe 50 quail eggs. Well, according to Google, it's getting whispered into my ear. The answer is 2 dozen. So, was it Sam that guessed 25? If it was, then you're the closest. I think it was Sam. Well done, Sam, you're the closest. Nanzine, you think that's quite a lot of eggs? I agree. 2 dozen eggs. That would feed you for quite a while, or make one really, really big omelette. Well, we're gonna carry on. Getting hungry thinking about all these egg recipes, and while I do that, let's send you back over to Tristan, see what he's up to.
I think David has been permanently hungry since he got to the camp. He was telling me yesterday that he was loving the fact that he was back here, because I will say this, we get to eat very, very well in this camp. We certainly do not starve, that's for sure. And the food that is prepared and made by the chefs prior to the lockdown, and now again when Lotus arrived yesterday, really they do a great job and they feed us incredibly well. So David was very happy to come back, and I'm sure he's going to be thinking of what's for breakfast the whole morning. Right, we've just turned and come back a little bit from those buffalo tracks, not because we found lion tracks, but because there was a male leopard track on top of it. So it's possible that I missed the track crossing into Djuma, but I just want to double check. The last track I had was on top of the buffalo and coming in this direction, so I want to check One-Eyed Pan here in case he drank here, but I didn't see anything crossing over on the boundary. Normally when you drive those roads that are graded like that, you pick up their tracks really easily going over, but if he was in amongst the buffalo, it's possible I missed it. And didn't see where he crossed over, so I just want to double check that I didn't miss anything. They looked fairly fresh. Obviously no one's driven that fire break in quite some time, and so that means that it's an area that leopard could have walked there yesterday or the day before, and no one's driven there. But these tracks look, like I say, they're on top of the buffalo, which we know was last night, so hopefully we can find this fella. Problem with where he's walked is that it's a very, very, very short distance to Manyeleti. Zach, who's 13 years old, you're asking what the difference is between a Serval and a Caracal. Zach, basically a Serval is a little bit smaller and more kind of thinner built than what a Caracal is. Caracals are quite, so it's basically, I would say, like a Serval has more of a build like a cheetah, and a Caracal more a build like a leopard, if you would want to compare them. The Serval has big black spots all over its body and a very short little tail, about this big. It's small, whereas a Caracal is just a kind of rusty red color, and it has these big pointy tufted black tips to its ears. It's a very beautiful cat and an incredibly powerful cat. Servals are Caracals are one of the most powerful cats that we get out here if you had to compare pound for pound or weight for weight. So
Jump like 3.5 meters.
yeah, they can. So Marcel was just saying to me that he thinks that they can jump like 3.5 meters in the air, and he's right. Because they're so powerful, they have this ability to jump incredibly high. It's amazing to watch them. They hunt birds a lot of the time like that, so particularly things like pigeons and doves. They'll wait for them to come flying low, and then they just jump up and then they grab them and pull them down. So really, really beautiful cats are Caracals, and Servals too. Servals are super, super, super pretty animals, and when we were in the Mara a lot, we used to see a lot of Servals, particularly just after the migration and the wildebeest had come through and all the grass was nice and short. Then you used to see these Servals all over the place, and it was really cool to watch them go about their business, because they hunt little mice, and so they walk around and then they stop with these big ears and they listen, and then they kind of pounce. So they do this jump where they bend their whole body and they come like this, and then they come down and they grab these little mice, and you see them with the mice in their mouth. It's really a very cool thing to watch. But unfortunately in this area, probably more than anything due to the high number of leopard, the Servals and Caracals have a very tough time. Leopards are notorious for killing other cats and smaller animals, and will eat pretty much everything. And so, things like Servals and Caracals really suffer when you've got a very high leopard density. They don't do very well at all. Wildcats as well. In fact, Sabui had a wildcat kill last year at some point, end of last year. I think it was in November, or maybe it was even January this year. She killed a wildcat. So, those smaller cats really do get hit by the leopards quite hard, and it's part of why we don't see a lot of them. The other side of it is that this particular area is not good for Serval in that it's quite dense and thick. Most of the Serval that get seen are in open clearings. So in Koro, there used to be a very, very, very relaxed Serval at Chitwa Airstrip that disappeared in, I think it was about 2013 it disappeared, but that one was so relaxed, it was like our relaxed leopards. You could go and park on the road and it would do a walk by past you. It was ridiculous. So there was that one, and then in Buffalo's Hook to the north, where there's a lot of open clearings, there's a serious amount of Servals being seen in that area. So it's just the habitat that we're in at the moment doesn't lend itself to BC levels, unfortunately. Alright, so now I need to look very, very careful, because we're back to where the track of that male leopard was walking on the road. I'm just checking just to see that I didn't miss it in amongst all of these buffalo tracks and hyena tracks. It doesn't look like he's controlled though. I'm going across the left.
Sorry about the audio problems with Tristan. But we are still here, still cruising. Looks like those line tracks definitely headed over the Gari cut line, unfortunately. That's what they do. They mission through. Remember, in South Africa, when we say something is missioning, it means it's moving. It's like on a mission. It's going somewhere, doing something. Not necessarily going or moving, it could just be doing. So if you've just finished a really difficult job at work, or like a hard work day, then BK could say, Asper, big missions, major missions. And it also means moving, so that looks like the lions were missioning. I'm going to to slowly habituate all of our overseas listeners to our South African lingo. Zach and Adam, hello and good morning. You've asked, do we have any honey badgers here? We definitely do. They're quite rare to see, but very cool to see. They've got a little no-nonsense gait. Lots of houding, a word we spoke about yesterday, a lot of attitude. And they are not all bark and no bites. They are predominantly bites, meaning that they are not afraid of anything. There's nothing out here that scares them, nothing out here that'll make them back down. Not even a huge male lion will scare a honey badger. I've seen fights between the two of them, and it's incredible to watch. The honey badger's only this big, like a big, or a small dog, big cat, and they don't back down at all. They just stand their ground. Very tough skin. They've got an ability to turn in their skin and bite back even when something's got them in its jaws. And they're very clever. They'll go for the soft parts of an animal, its sensitive parts. You can maybe imagine where that would be on a male lion. Generally out here, if you see honey badgers, they're either running down the road, or they're ones that have gotten clever and they're in your camp kitchen or in the dustbin or somewhere around camp. They've got a very clever ability to be able to open doors and windows and open latches, open gates. They're very clever. They can climb up. But I believe you've actually recently had a lovely honey badger sighting on the show, so that's great news. I wouldn't mind seeing one. I haven't seen one in ages. Just come to a nice open area. We're just sitting and listening a little bit. Always good to listen. Sometimes you don't hear things over the noise of the vehicle. Got a nice view from up here. Not a sound except the birds. You're very lucky to only hear wildlife. Most places in the world, if you sit in silence, you'll hear a car or a siren or something electronic. People talking. Out here if BK and I sit quietly, we literally just hear birds. No engines, no roads. Very lucky to be out in a part of the world like this. And thankfully, through technology, we can share it with you. Sky, you say you just adore these views, and like your name, we do have a very pretty sky above us this morning, a deep blue. Looks a bit chilly up there, but a very vagrant blue, vibrant blue, not vagrant blue. I'm busy looking at the top of a marula tree there. It's a very important tree in Africa that provides the delicious marula fruit that everyone, including people and animals, love in the summer months. But not now. Now it's just a little bit of shade, and even the leaves won't last that long. It's been a lovely first 45 minutes with the kids. Kids session is now over. So we are welcoming all questions from all viewers. It's lovely to hear from you, hear your insights and your questions. Lovely to discuss this beautiful nature that we find ourselves surrounded by. So much to learn, so much to explore. Don't see any trees shaking from a hungry elephant beaker.
No.
Lisa, you reckon this is so zen? Well, it definitely is peaceful. It's a great place to sit and reflect and think about life and all the happenings and the goings. I know where every one of you might be in the world, it might be a little bit more busy and bustling. But at least we can share this tranquility with you. It's very, it kind of just makes you, if I could describe the feeling, it makes you just chill. I'm not even really thinking, I'm just taking it all in. Kind of like that starling on the top of the tree, just sitting there waiting for the sun to warm the back of my neck. But sounds like we're not the only ones taking in the scenery. I believe Tristan is on some Mbambili and enjoying having a nice look around. Let's send you over to him and see what he's up to.
Indeed, we are taking. Come to simulate. We're going to quite lose a bit of.
Sorry about those issues with Tristan's feed. BK and I were just discussing audio. He heard audio for a leopard. Yeah, that's really cool. He's got good ears. I was maybe busy talking, so I didn't hear anything. But let's maybe turn around and go have a look. Cool, let's go look in that general direction. Maybe we get lucky. The normal leopard like I have on Djuma hasn't quite presented itself yet, so hopefully today is the day. And just to let you know, we are having some tech issues with Ngala feed due to a power failure. Remember, we are in Africa and the power does like to fail very often. This morning while Emma and I were brushing teeth getting ready, I heard her also give a little bit of an exclamation in the room next door because all of a sudden it went pitch black. I couldn't even find my toothpaste. I had to feel around. The lights were on when I woke up, but very shortly thereafter, darkness. And remember, it's winter time here, so when we wake up, it's nice and dark. Well, we have a look around and see if we can find the source of the leopard calling. Just going to keep our eyes and ears open. Maybe stop at the top here and listen again. Might get lucky and hear him or her again. Generally, leopard audio, leopard sawing is a territorial call, in which case they'll do it as they move. Perhaps every 15 or 20 odd minutes or so, depending on the cat and how awake it is. Nancy, you've asked, do honey badgers have an odor? They definitely do. They do have an odor. I'm not sure where the secretion particularly is. Perhaps like your civets under the tail, they've got glands. Not too sure if honey badgers have the same. But when I've been up close and personal with them, they do definitely emit quite a strong smell. It's one honey badger that you get to get very up close and personal with at a rehabilitation centre nearby. His name is Stoffel, and I think he was, I can't remember the story how he got there. He was hurt or injured or something, but he made himself very at home there, and you can actually interact with him quite a bit. He's very clever. He can find his way out of anything. There's no enclosure that'll keep him in. Like I was saying earlier, honey badgers are very good at opening things and making plans, getting around. I thought I saw another lion track going the other way, but it was just a big hyena. Sometimes, at a quick glimpse, you get excited. But I believe all of you are familiar with Stoffel. I think Stoffel's quite famous. He's got worldwide fame. He's been around for quite a while. Wild K, you say you've met Stoffel, you used to volunteer there. So I would imagine you had quite a lot to do with him if you volunteered there at Moholo Holo. They do take volunteers. One can go and spend time there assisting in the rehabilitation of wildlife. Just a nice little junction to stop at here. Someone's calling on the radio. Hey, Pep, send for David.
Hi, Dave. Nice and easy for Treehouse Dam if you're interested.
Copy, thanks. A lot of elephant tracks on this junction. But I just got a call on the radio that the elephant at Treehouse Dam, so maybe we should head down there. Haven't heard anything more on that Leopardo. I wouldn't mind some elephants this morning. How about you guys? Maybe some interaction. I just got a fine treehouse dam. Luckily I got a GPS on the back and the former BK that knows these roads very well. Talia, you've asked a very good question. Do I see a difference in the animal behavior since the lodges have been closed and there are less people driving around? And I can't say that I have, It hasn't been very long. Perhaps if it was for months and months you would see a bit of a difference, but just in a couple of weeks I have not noticed any difference. And there's still a lot of vehicles out and about. There's people that live on the reserve, so there's still movement. We've got a very far away silhouette of a raptor in a dead tree. Let's stop and see if we can identify them. Just gonna stop and get a gap. There we go. Get my binoculars out, my farlookers. In Afrikaans, a binocular is a verkyker. Meaning a farlooker. Thought I saw another one a little bit lower. Able to identify this eagle. Let me know. I think I know what it is. I'm sorry, BK. My bad, I just wanted to quickly back up a little bit and see if we can see the other one. Yeah, there's another one there. Might give a clue as to what the species is. There's a little gap in the tree. Tell me when. Beautiful view. They are very far away. Any guesses yet as to their Nadesh and Indigo Girl? You said African Hawk Eagle. I think that's a very good assumption. Often found in pairs. Never easy to see from such a long distance, identifying raptors, especially in the morning sun when there's still a lot of darkness. Actually, any time of day in Africa when the sun's out. Never easy to see their colors from a distance, but I think we can say that we're on the mark with these two. Looks like it's about ready to get going. Well, it sounds like Tristan's got a stable feed, so let's send you over to him and check out the water.
We have, hopefully, we've been trying to go up and down all around this dam, which is so weird because yesterday we obviously watched the buffalo here and had no problems with our signal, but this morning the signal is still sleeping and saying no. But there you see in the middle of the dam is a floating impala. Now, impalas don't go swimming and dive just for the sake of it and risking it and, just because it's a dare. Generally, impalas are pushed into water by something. And so it's either a crocodile that's grabbed it, but given how that impala is sitting dead still and is kind of just milling there, I don't think it would be a crocodile. I think a crocodile, if it had that now, would be feeding on it, and we would have seen some sort of breaking up of that impala carcass. That impala is still completely whole. And so the only two other culprits that this could be is a pack of dogs or the hyena clan that occurs in this area. Now, the clan that occurs here is the Elephant Plains clan. It is a lethal unit that hunts regularly. They're not ones that rely on scavenging. While they do steal a lot from leopards and lions in this particular part of the world, they certainly are capable of hunting. I've seen that clan hunt buffalo before. I've seen them hunt bushbuck, nyala, kudu, and obviously impalas too. So, judging by the tracks that we were able to figure out around the dam, it looks like it was the hyenas. I don't see a track for a wild dog anywhere here. And so I suspect that it's hyenas that have been at play here. And what would have happened is they generally try and chase them, and dogs do the same, and they run after them. And as they're running after them, if an impala or antelope spots water, it will generally dive into the water because it knows that dogs and hyenas, for the most part, won't risk swimming in case of crocodiles. And so what happens is they go inside here and then they swim, and the predator lurks on the edges of the water point, and they just run around and they keep that impala in the water, and the impala swims and swims and swims and swims and swims, and eventually it swims itself to the point where it basically dies. It either drowns or it suffers cardiac arrest and goes into shock and dies basically, and then it just floats like this. Now, if it's dogs, often what they'll do is if it's close to the edge like that, they would have gone in and grabbed it and pulled it out. Hyenas typically do as well, but maybe they lost interest, and where it was initially, where it died, was in the middle, and it was just too deep for them to get to, and they lost their nerve and they left. And since then, it's now floated much closer to the edge. If it was that predator was still around here, you would have found that they would have gone in and fetched it by now. It's so close to the edge of the water that it's very, very possible. But it's always a sad thing when you see a dead animal like this. It's not nice, but it does happen. You do see it often. I actually had a sighting not far from here, a little bit further south, where we had wild dogs chasing impala into a big dam, and this poor thing swam itself to death. And then there was this huge interaction with a hippo over this impala and the wild dogs, and it was just the most crazy sighting of dogs trying to swim to get to this impala, but then the hippo would come crashing through, and actually one dog ended up being caught by the hippo, which was super. This hippo charged out, and as it kind of charged out, the dog tried to run through the water, and this hippo grabbed the dog, and as it was closing its mouth, which would have probably killed this dog and cut it in half basically, the dog was so slippery from being wet. It's like as it closed, it was almost like if you squeeze something like a tube of toothpaste too fast, this little dog just like squirted out of the hippo's mouth. It was like it was too slippery, and it just went bloop, and it luckily kind of fell down and then ran away before the hippo could get it again. But it was this just crazy interaction. I've actually got, I don't even know where those photos are, but it was a very, very cool sighting. Just to witness that behavior between the dogs and the hippo. Like I say, not cool from the impala's point of view, but the dogs and hippo element was unbelievable. So, it's one of those things that does happen. And unfortunately for this impala, it obviously just couldn't get out for whatever reason it was, and got stuck here. I don't think it's a crocodile. Like I say, we were here yesterday afternoon. There was buffalo milling about. We certainly didn't see a crocodile swim in that direction or kind of put its head up at any point while we were here. And normally crocodiles that are in these kind of water holes don't get large mammals often, and so they normally make hay while the sun shines, and they tear that carcass up pretty quickly and eat it. Even though most crocodiles will try and rot their food a little bit. Crocodiles of the size that will take that can probably tear it up quite fast. What they do is they grab it and they shake it out of the surface of the water, and it splits the animal. It's quite amazing to watch. There was a crocodile that was close to Chitwa Dam that used to hunt quite regularly in a dam called Treehouse Dam, so not the one where David is now, but another one on Little Gowrie, and that's how it used to eat the impalas. It used to catch them, and then it would grab them, and it would throw them around, and you'd get this impala being kind of like waved through the air, and massive chunks would just fly off from where the crocodile was holding. So the force of it actually kind of ripping it from the surface tension would be enough to actually break off legs and bits of it, and that's how it actually fed. It didn't have to wait for them to rot at all. So, yeah, interesting. But like I say, it doesn't seem like there's any sign of the dogs. There certainly doesn't seem like any sign of lions either, so I don't think it was them. It certainly wasn't the leopard that walked past here as well, and I'm bleak about that because we were here the whole afternoon yesterday, and this leopard obviously came past during the course of the night. Richie, you say you're mind blown by these stories? Yeah, like I say, I've been fortunate. I've got some really cool stories about dogs particularly, and some random stuff that they get up to, and particularly interaction around water. I once was on the Sand River down in the southern part of the Sabi Sands. The Sabi River, and we were watching a pack of dogs there, and they chased a bushbuck, and this bushbuck jumped into the Sabi River, but the section that it jumped into was a weird off section. So there's this weird, and it creates a much deeper, wider channel within the river. And so as this bushbuck jumped into the water, the commotion attracted the attention of a very large crocodile that used to live in that section of the river. And this crocodile was, I would say, maybe 500-600 meters upriver from this bushbuck. And so as the bushbuck jumped in, 2 dogs went after it and into the water. And as they hit the water, this crocodile came down the river. But the speed at which that crocodile moved down that river was unbelievable. There was just this bow wave as this thing just came flying down the river and just went like this. And the 2 dogs luckily saw this coming, and they aborted very quickly and turned, and the bushbuck went, and this crocodile just plowed into this bushbuck. It was unbelievable to see how fast a crocodile moves and how much force it hit that poor bushbuck with. And the bushbuck obviously was not to be seen again, unfortunately. So yeah. And that same crocodile also managed to get a lion cub in that same spot as well, which was pretty traumatic to watch. Anyway, we're going to leave this Impala. We're going to go try and see what else is around. We're going to try and figure out if the lions came north onto Simambili. While we do that, though, let's send you back across to David, see if he's had any luck with that calling leopard.
Our mission's going good. We were on the way to Treehouse Dam, but we've gotten reports from the dam camp. The vervets are alarming at the dam, and we're not far, so it's worth stopping by and having a look. What's making the vervets alarm? Could be a spotted cat, could be another predator, could be a snake even, but always worth having a look. Sure, we are all quite ready to see a leopard by now. It's been a couple days, eh? JT, you commented that you got your fingers crossed for a leopard. Me too. Let's see, we're almost there. Have a look around. Andre, so they're still alarm calling, so that's good. Means whatever's there is still there. Always good to use animal alarm calls as an indicator of something else. It's always a giveaway. To watch the bush, they've got much better eyes and ears than what we do. So if you learn to interpret the alarm calls of different species, then it often helps you locate some predators. Lychee, is that your name? Lychee or Lychee? You reckon these animals play hide and go seek with us? Lychee like the fruit. I do really enjoy lychees. One of my favorite fruits. But you reckon they're playing hide and go seek? Well, if I was a leopard, I would definitely play hide and go seek with us. I'd make it my game. Sometimes I do also agree. Sometimes I really think they do. Often when you spot a leopard in the bush, it's almost like they're almost deflated. Like, oh man, they saw me. So often when you drive by, they crouch down and stand still, and then you see them and you stop and you reverse, and then they think, oh, I've been spotted. And then oftentimes they try and slip away from you. And when they realize that you're not giving up, then they kind of change their behavior and they just go back to being normal. Obviously depends on which leopard, which area. Out here, these leopard are very comfortable around vehicles, which is obviously a huge bonus to view them. I wonder which side of the dam cam the monkeys are calling. Ooh, we should just stop and have a quick listen. Well, while we just explore around here and see what the cause of the commotion is, I'm going to send you back over to Tristan.
Well, hopefully David will find the cause of the commotion. Certainly seems like somebody's upsetting things. Marcel says to me there's a snake there that makes the monkeys go crazy around the dam cam as well. So I wonder if that's not what's causing it, but I hope it's not. I hope it's a spotty cat for David's sake, and that he finds it. The problem with monkeys, though, is that they see so far, and so, you know, finding a cat off of a monkey alarm call is quite tricky. Unless obviously they're walking straight down a road or in a big open riverbed, but otherwise they can spot them in thickets and all kinds of things, and you can drive around, and because their eyesight is so good, it can often be much further than you think it is. So hopefully, like I say, David will have some luck, and that's let's say leopard. Let's throw it out there, makes itself known and appears. But we're still just on the trying to figure out where exactly this lead went. I just bumped into the guys from Sumambili. They're going to give us a hand and just try and check the area as well. It walked straight past that dam and then on the fire break and straight west. So I'm not sure if he's maybe crossed in, but I didn't find any tracks, and I went right up to the gate. So either he did cross, or he cut back south somewhere. And just haven't found his track yet, so just checking south of where we were when we first spotted his tracks in case. What's that there, myself? Lying in the road. Is it just a termite mound?
Yeah, binocs.
Yeah, I do have binocs. Let me have a look quickly. Looks like just a termite mound. Something dark in the grass, put it that way. I think it's just a termite mound, but one must always check, Marcel. Yes, it is just a mound of dirt, is what it is. But when you see things like that while you are driving, it's always good to double check, especially because, you know, we are looking for cats, and cats often appear like that in long grass when you're driving around. So I'm also much lower than Marcel, so I think it's much easier. Tristan, who's age 8. Tristan, you must be a legend already. What a wonderful name. You see, you'll grow up to be successful. I can see it. No, joking. No, we don't have phoenix foxes here. Unfortunately, they're super cute. Them at Djuma. The only thing is the jackals, and they are the same, but that's it in this particular area to a phoenix fox. I wish we saw phoenix foxes. Super cute little things, especially the little baby. Very, very cool little animals, that's for sure. I know, the ears are ridiculous. When we were in the Mara, we used to see bat-eared foxes. That was fun. They were super cool as well. There was a little bat-eared fox den at one point that we had in... we could spend time at this den, and you'd have them often in the mornings when it was cold. They'd all curl up. In fact, I've got a photo of them all curled. It's classic. They just kind of curl up in a little and sort of huddle away for the sun to warm them. So let me find it here. I'm sure I've got it. But yeah, the phoenix, I'm afraid not. No, me neither. Not in real life, at least.
The only fox I've seen was a Cape fox.
Yeah, I've also only seen Cape foxes. There we go. So that is the bat-eared fox little den that we used to have in the Mara. This was the little ones that we used to see all the time, and they used to curl up, and you could see the ones would tuck their heads, and this was just one that kind of popped its head up. They're super cool little creatures. Used to really enjoy spending a lot of time with these guys. Unfortunately, you know, dens move and stuff like that, and so before I left, they had already moved off, but super cute little things. Nice if you go to the Kalahari, where James was for his honeymoon. I'm sure some of you may have already heard all about these things, but Cape fox and bat-eared foxes a lot in that area. You can get some really nice, particularly if you can find a little Cape fox den. That's the best. Then you super cool sightings of these cute little foxes as they play around. The adults bring all kinds of little tasty treats in the form of mice and gerbils and those kinds of things.
Not too bad with.
All right, guys, we're going to keep looking around here, keep just checking, see if there's any sign of the swimmers. While we do that, though, let's check David's better idea of what those monkeys are alarming at.
Well, we just left the dam. We spent a little bit of time there. Didn't hear anything. Maybe a bit late. Had a look around. No fresh tracks, but doesn't mean something wasn't there. Monkeys don't lie. We swing back past that way on the way back to camp later. But for now, I want to go see if we can catch up with these elephant that were at Treehouse Dam. I'm not sure if they're still there. So nice being in an open vehicle, getting the wind in your face, and
on Philemon's cut line going south.
I know David yes, he wasn't sure how fresh it was, but I haven't seen nine trucks there.
sorry FC, can you send me that question again? I was listening to the radio.
Okay.
JT, varsity cats often bother monkeys, and they do. Mostly a leopard. Leopard will and do hunt vervets, as they do baboons. both vervets and baboons will always be very agitated and alarm call at the sight of a monkey. This tree's a flashback. The last time I was here we climbed with Owen, BK. Yeah, we were looking for elephant. It's funny how something just sticks in your mind like that. So whenever baboons and monkeys are alarm calling, it's always worth exploring, always worth checking it out. The good news is, sounds like Eric is up and running with the Ngala feed, so we're going to send you over to him, see how his morning's going and what he's up to.
Good morning, everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to andBeyond Ngala. My name is Eric. Behind camera is Owen, as usual. And yeah, we had a little bit of an interesting morning. I'm sure you've heard all about it. We've been driving around trying to look for some signal, and finally we found a cool little patch. And we are now driving down, so back in towards the eastern part of the reserve, towards one of those nice big water holes that we've been seeing quite regularly. And I'm trying to look for any tracks or signs of that female leopard and cub that you had with Nikki yesterday morning, right at the end of show. So that's what we'll be trying to do this morning. Owen and I briefly went past to where those lions were last night. Couldn't see the female, couldn't see the young male. So unfortunately, this morning at least, we don't really have any updates on them yet. But we'll keep looking. Exciting to hear that we've got alarm calls down at Djuma, so hopefully something comes of that. These mornings are getting colder and colder by the day. It's quite incredible how the temperature's changing so much. So Mouse, you asking what time of day the leopards are more active? And they're considered a nocturnal species at least, so that means that they tend to be more active during the night hours, so from sunset to sunrise. But in my experience, I've noticed that leopards move around a lot at really odd hours. And so sometimes in the middle of the day, you'll see a leopard moving from one place to another, which the books don't really tell you about. But for the most part, I would say, if anything, they'll be active right throughout the night up until maybe a few hours after sunrise, and then maybe just before sunset. They like to move around in the cooler parts of the day where they don't have to waste their energy cooling themselves down. So yeah, it depends. And it also changes from winter time to summertime. Sometimes in summertime, they'll only be active in the very, very short little periods where they're trying to escape the heat most of the time. In the winter time, they don't have to worry about that too much, so they can move around a little bit more. And so, for example, this leopardess with her cub, she might be wanting to be active a little bit more in the daytime, because there's a lot of hyenas and potentially lions that are much more active at night. And so as a way to try and avoid them and keep her cub safe, she could be more active during daylight hours. So yeah, especially when she's moving around with the cub. Okay, so we are just going to be slowly driving down this area. David has still got those monkeys alarm calling, so let's see if he's found anything there.
Welcome back. We have left that area of the monkeys. Didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. Might have been just a little bit late, but like I said a little bit ago, we'll go back there on the way back to camp. Now we're just on the way to Treehouse. I'm really keen to see some elephants. I'd love some lovely elephant interaction this morning. Molly, age 14. Good morning. Lovely to hear from you. You've asked how do elephants decide who leads the herd? And sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I looked back and looked at the sun and that makes me sneeze. So give me 1 second. Excuse me. For some reason, whenever I look at a bright light, it makes me sneeze. And the sun was just behind the camera. Molly, you've asked how do elephants know who leads the herd? Well, elephants are a matriarchal society, so they are always led by the big mommy. Dominant bulls will form their own groups and do their own thing, but they don't lead the herds. And I suppose it's probably passed down from mother to mother. Maybe the matriarch, when she gives birth to a daughter, when that daughter becomes of age, she might take over. Perhaps it's decided in a different way. Obviously there can always be changes to the rules. The matriarch might not be able to have or she might not raise a daughter, and then another one would take over, another one in the family. But matriarchal societies in elephants are very, very close knit, and the families stick together. And those matriarchs, once they're matriarchs, meaning the mother that leads, they will be with the herd and look after them and protect them and lead them for a long, long time, as long as they live, or as long as they're able to stick with the herd. And they've got very good memories. They know where all the water holes are, they know all the game paths. Over many thousands of kilometers they'll walk and lead the herds from water sources to good grazing, good areas of food. So very important, and they'll obviously pass on that knowledge down the line through the generations. So when you stop and think about elephants and how they lead the herds, who leads the herds, it's actually very interesting. It's very, very special in how complex it really is, and how much responsibility that matriarch has for looking after her family. Well, almost a treehouse dam. I'm hoping the elephants are still around. While I carry on the search, let's send you over to Tristan.
Good luck, David. Hopefully you find your Ellies. We have had zero sign of anything kind of noteworthy at this stage. Just a lot of tracks for hyenas, but very little sign of anything else. There's a termite mound on our left-hand side here that I've always wanted to see a leopard on, but I've never seen it on. It's quite a tall termite mound. If you look at the size of, if you think of the size of a Land Rover, and then look at the size of that. Pretty impressive, isn't it, that an insect built that? It's large, eh, Marcel? It's a big termite mound, this one. I've always wanted to see a leopard on top. I had Tingana once walk across this termite mound, so he came along the bottom of it, and I've had Shadow also walk past this, but never had a leopard go to the top. I always thought it would be a cool kind of sighting. It's not the biggest one though in this area. There is a bigger one than this in Coral, which I reckon you could probably drive a Land Rover on top of it. That's how wide it is at the top, and probably 2 vehicles high. It's a monster termite mound. I also again wanted to always see a leopard on that one, and I unfortunately got there the one day as a leopard was coming down off of it, so its tail was going down, which was a bit frustrating. It was actually in Willa, funny enough, and yeah, so I didn't get it properly. But anyway, it's okay. You know, now we are back on Simambili. We can hope that we get a leopard on top of this. Maybe the Hook, he likes a termite mound, so maybe he'll go and sit on top at some point. But an impressive feat of engineering by an insect. It's crazy how big these things are.
And you think the temperature is constant in all parts.
Exactly, that's it, Marcel. Marcel, I think it's actually where we need to do your fun fact, even though you're on leave and just helping us out for today, but because David's going on leave and Alex is coming in today, you're going to have to do a fun fact for us, Marcel.
I'm good with that.
You good with that? Okay, well, next segment we'll do a fun fact with Marcel. For those of you that are interested, the encyclopedia is back. Right, now it sounds like Dave has managed to find his Ellies, which is a good sign. Hopefully we will have the same luck shortly. So let's send you across to him.
We have had some luck. We've managed to catch up with a big old herd of elephant. Just chilling here next to Treehouse Dam. Speaking of matriarchs, so we see if we can maybe figure out who the matriarch is, which one it is. Just got here, so we're just going to watch them for a while. The biggest mother I see is just here to the right. There she is, you can just see her bum. Maybe it's her. She actually looks pregnant again. Look at this elephant on the right. This elephant on the right walked through a spider web and got a bunch of leaves stuck on his trunk. That one there, if it turns to the left, you'll see. It's quite funny. Oh, just listen, they are so mesmerizing. Sit here and enjoy this incredible sighting. Listen to them drink as they slurp up that water. Such a privilege to be out here and spend time with these massive pachyderms. It's a beautiful herd, from the biggest to the youngest. privilege to. And there you witness firsthand the elephant family politics. I'm not exactly sure what happened. It looks like the youngster was doing something that annoyed the older one. Just gonna get this guy right here next to us, coming to check us out. It's like a young bull, nice and cocky. And then up there on the left, we don't know what's going on. Looks like a wrestling match. There's a lot going on here. How cool, what a privilege. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, please show your support. You can follow the link on the bottom of the page. We really appreciate it. It keeps us going out here. He was a bit slow getting up, but I do agree with you, Mrs. Zero. The elephant can move very quickly when they want to, especially when there's water involved. We're just gonna reverse a little bit, get a wider angle. When there's water involved, the elephant get very excited and they go into a bit of a trot. Put them a vantage point up here. Take it all in. You need a panoramic lens. Laura Moore, good morning. Lovely to hear from you again. Just asked for a quick count of how many elephants are here. From what I can see, there's around 40. 40 olifanten. Cajon telefoon. Quite a decent size. I've heard here, lots of youngsters.
Welcome back, everyone. Apologies about that frozen image. It sounded like most of the action around that elephant and the waterhole kind of died down, so at least you got to see the majority of it. From our side, we have just gone towards where Nikki and Owen, hello, speaking of the devil, yeah, I was literally just about to say we were going towards where Nikki and Owen had the tracks of that leopard last, and we've actually literally just found tracks of what looks to be like a female leopard. Can you see down here, Owen? Will you get there? This one here. Let me move forward a bit. Sorry about that. Okay, perfect. Here we go. So, yeah, a really nice clear track of a leopard. So, got those 4 toes, the back pad, and then at the back pad there's those 3 lobes over there. So this is a female leopard walking straight down this way. Now, we've literally just found them, and what I've actually just noticed is it does look like there's a vehicle that's driven over the tracks here. On the right over here, so it looks like they're not as old or not as fresh as I thought they might be from sometime yesterday, but they are heading straight down towards a really nice little dry riverbed that we'll go and have a quick little look at. And it's really nice tracks. I can only see tracks of her, which okay, yeah. So we might stick around here to see if we can see tracks of the cub. Maybe these are her going to fetch the cub, and then Nikki saw them a little bit behind us. Whilst we figure it out, I think we'll send you back to David, who's still got those elephants.
Well, we're still chilling here with these elephants. Spend time with them like this and you see that there's drama. Lovely audio we're getting here. Generally a mother that's very protective. These mothers are extremely protective, as are all mothers. Often all it takes is for a youngster to squeal or scream or show a bit of stress, and then there's an outbreak of trumpeting as the mothers spin around and trumpet and see what the cause of the distress is. Sounds like Tristan has got an arachnid. Let's send you over to him, see what he's found.
We are indeed looking at an arachnid. We're looking at one of my favorite spiders that we see out here, and I'm super happy because you don't normally see these guys at this time of the day. This is a bark spider, and bark spiders generally are out at night. You don't see them very much in the day. What they normally do is they go and hide in the day, and they use that incredible camouflage that they have to go and sit flush up against a piece of bark, and hence where the name comes from. They then look like that bark, and they can camouflage and don't have to worry too much. There's some sort of predator around, whether it be a bird of prey or something, but there's squirrels going crazy, birds. Maybe there's a hawk or something. Anyway, but the reason why you don't see these guys much during the day is, like I say, is that and because they camouflage, is that they can be a food source for a number of birds. And so what these guys do generally is come out at night. Just as sun sets, they start their building of their web, and they'll do it across quite open pathways. So generally pathways, roads are their favorite. Sometimes you'll find it just randomly in the bush, like this one. But this one's on the edge of a road, so it's not the worst place for it. And they'll sit there for the night, and they sit in the middle of their web just like they are now, and they wait obviously for insects to hit it, and then they scurry down, grab and eat. What they then do is in the mornings, generally, is they take their whole web and they consume it again. And the reason why they do that is because the silk that they spin is a protein-based substance, and therefore it's reclamation of energy. They're able to process that and reuse it and basically feed themselves and not use too much nutrients to building the web, especially because they have to do it so repetitively. Other spiders that build their web once off and kind of live in it, they don't have to do that because, well, they're not spending as much energy, whereas this guy is doing it almost daily. It needs to be able to get some of that energy back. So they normally eat their web and then back onto the tree and go and hide out for the day, and then at night the whole process begins again. It's pretty astounding to watch these guys go about it and to see how quickly they put these webs up in the evenings. So I mean, we drive these roads regularly, and yet you'll come in at night and you'll find across a big main road there will be this bark spider that's built its web already within about an hour after sunset, which is pretty cool. So I really like these guys, and like I say, they're cool looking spiders as well, like little fat rotund guys with these little legs. This one seems to be living its best life, just sitting out in the open, taking it easy. Lisa, it does look a little bit like a crab, doesn't it? They have a very similar kind of appearance to a crab. Little fat round abdomen area, and then these little legs that come forward from there. All bark spiders look like this. They're quite round little things, but this is a fairly decent sized one. They don't get too much bigger than what you see on this particular bark spider. Cute though, isn't it? Probably a lot of you are saying, how can I call a spider cute? I don't know, I find these guys fairly cute. They're cool, they're like jumping spiders. Alright, I'm just going to investigate why all these birds are shouting, see if maybe there's a hawk or an eagle or something around here. And so while I do that, I'll send you back across to David, who seems to be having a wonderful time with those elephants.
Oh, very cool sighting of a bark spider. Lovely to see in the day like that. We haven't moved a muscle, we've just sat here and enjoyed these elephants. Very special to see them around water. Thematic, you've asked, is it too cold for them to swim? I was just thinking about that myself. Often on if it was a really hot summer's day, I would have expected one to be in by now, but they don't seem to be wanting to get into the water. Maybe it is a bit cold for them. I haven't even seen one throw water or mud on its back. So yeah, I would say maybe a bit, they're not too hot, they don't feel the need to get into the water. One there's having a bit of a dust bath. Lots of very cute youngsters in this group. jetpack, you've asked an interesting question. Can crocodiles end up biting an elephant's trunk? I've never witnessed it, but I have read about it. I've read a story of a crocodile biting an elephant's trunk. Of course, the elephant getting a huge fright, and it flipped the crocodile out of the water as it jerked its trunk back. Not sure what the crocodile was thinking. Obviously never be able to pull an elephant in, perhaps a young elephant. I'm sure it's happened before where huge crocodiles have pulled in young elephants. But I've never seen or heard of it. I can only imagine the drama and chaos that would ensue if a crocodile was to attack an elephant. See how much trumpeting and screaming goes on when a youngster trips or gets pushed by its sibling. Imagine a crocodile lurching out of the water and scaring the elephants. I think it would be absolute chaos. I'm just going to reverse a little bit. Kind of moving behind us now. See if we could get a little bit of a better angle. Sky, you reckon you always feel that elephants are smart? Just stop here. Don't want to be in their way, just want to have a nice view as they cross behind us. Never want to cut them off or make them feel uncomfortable. Just always got to keep that magical distance with them, so as not to enter their comfort zone. Sky, you reckon elephants are smart to have safety in numbers? They are. Very intelligent animals. And safety in numbers is a big part of survival in the bush. Sanetra, you've asked, are these two separate groups of elephant or one massive one? Look at this female here right behind us. She needs to go to the dentist. Very crooked tusks. Sorry, she's right behind the antenna there. Hard to see what I'm talking about. She's got one tusk that's bending under the trunk. Kind of bizarre. Sanecha, I think it might be the same herd, just a bit fragmented at the moment. They will often spread out over a huge area. And of course, smaller herds can join up to create bigger herds. Places like Botswana, you see elephant herds in their hundreds and sometimes even thousands. I think that's different family herds that could join together to create larger herds and spend some time together and then separate again. A lovely scratch there. Let's just listen. You can hear the skin, the thick, tough skin scratching against the bark of that tree. Lots of dust bathing going on. Andrea, you've commented that this female with the skew tusk seems to have adapted well. She does. Doesn't seem to be troubling her whatsoever. Interesting how it grew like that. I wonder why. Perhaps she got injury as a youngster. But it doesn't seem to be worrying her in the least. She's got no sock. No sock meaning no issue. Let's go back a little bit there. Moving into the tree line. Well, while I reposition, I'm just going to send you back over to Eric, see what he's up to. In the meantime, we're going to chill out with these elephants a bit longer.
We are still driving very, very carefully along this way. The tracks that we found when we were live with you seemed to be a little bit older than I initially thought, and I think basically what had happened is, we probably were driving the same area that she was walking down, potentially to fetch her cubs. So we ended up driving that riverbed to see if we could find any tracks or signs of her. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any fresher stuff, and so now we're just trying to do a slightly bigger loop around the area, so just to see if we can try and figure out. I mean, we've checked the north and the west, and so now we're trying to move towards the east and the south. And we are pretty close to a large waterhole where she might have come towards to maybe bring the cub to some water. So we'll see if there's anything there. We'll get there shortly. But one thing we noticed quite a lot was how in the riverbed, when we were driving through a narrow channel, how many of the leaves on the trees were still incredibly green. And as soon as we come up onto a little ridge line, you start to see more of these yellows and oranges. And the most distinctive tree that started to change is part of the Combretum, or the bush willow family. And I mean, it's pretty much the most abundant one that we find here. Like this one here, I don't know, is it a bit too far? We'll just swing around and just show you this one here on the left is called a bush willow. And I mean, if you look at it now, it's pretty much all completely yellow. Most of the bush willow species are yellow like that, and some of them are turning a beautiful orange color. Jose, you are asking what the largest litter of leopard cubs that has ever been seen on Ngala, and it was before my time, so I'll have to double check with the names, but I think it might have been part of the Fountains Leap, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it was a female who had 3 cubs that I think she successfully raised almost to adulthood. Since then, every female that we found has only got 2 cubs. It's one of the most incredible things I think would see a leopard with 3 cubs, which would be incredibly rare. We've seen 4 leopards altogether before, but that's a female with her 2 cubs, and then the father rocks up onto the scene, especially when there's a fresh Impala for him to come and steal the share. So I've seen that a number of times since I've been at Ngala, but I haven't seen a female that has got 3 cubs. I mean, the typical litter size is only 2 on average. A lot of the time, I mean, 1 will only make it, sometimes both will, but it's exceptionally rare for all 3 leopards to make it to adulthood. See, it's a bit hard looking for tracks of this female leopard here because we're right close to that waterhole, and these animals will use this road as a path, and so we've got lots of elephant tracks on the right hand side, we've got hyena tracks on top of them, and so if the leopard walked here before, finding tracks would be near impossible. So I can start picking up my pace. Okay, so we are in the process, as Emma says, we got our noses down to the ground looking for tracks, and I think Tristan might be doing the same thing, so let's go and see what he's up to.
We have been doing the same, but unfortunately our noses led us to the northern boundary. Eventually found those male leopard tracks again, picked them up. They crossed straight north at Sydney's Dam, behind the buffalo. I don't know why that leopard's following the buffalo, but maybe he's just intrigued to see. And I've just driven the boundary along in case it turned and came back, but unfortunately not, which is very, very sad. But last night there was a male leopard seen in Buffelshoek, actually not far from where Sydney's Dam is. That he's been seen a couple times, and in southern Manuleti. He doesn't have a name, he's an unknown male, but he's a pretty good looking fella. He's a big boy. I'll try to see if I can find you a photo of him. I don't know what I've done. Marcella, what have I done with my phone so that I can even show this? I have absolutely no idea.
Not in your pockets?
No. I don't have them in my pockets. I don't know what I did with it. Marcel will have a look now. I'll try to find my phone. But Eric has found an owl, so while I look for the photo of this leopard, let's send you up across to andBeyond and Ngala.
Yeah, it looks fine, but it's dark, but... Welcome back. We haven't been away for too long, but Owen pulled off an amazing spot of this owl, and we just thought that we would show it to you. Unfortunately, the lighting is a little bit tricky, but yeah, what we'll just kind of stick around and see what it's up to. And it's an owl that is actually quite active during the daytime. And I think one of the ways that made it a bit easier for Owen to find it is that it was giving off of its call. So we heard it calling, we stopped, and then Owen managed to spot this little round owl. Very, very cute. And it's got mostly white and brown. I don't know if you can see it too well on the image, but it's white and brown streaks all the way down to the edge of the tail. These beautiful piercing yellow eyes. And then lots and lots of little spots on the forehead. And all of those point us to the direction of a pearl-spotted owlet. And this owl, like I said, is pretty active during the daytime. And it often, especially when it calls, like we've heard, it will attract a lot of birds trying to chase it away. They recognize it as a predator, and they want it away from them. So I'm surprised when we heard it calling, but we haven't really seen any other birds coming in to investigate. See, it's turning its head around and around. You look very closely. If it turns its head and faces away from us, it will need to turn a little bit more than it is now. We'll see these little black spots. So we'll see if we can figure out if we can get into a position where the lighting might not be as harsh, and we'll quickly show it to you. If not, we'll continue on towards this waterhole I've been mentioning a few times. But it sounds like David has managed to catch up to this elephant, so let's see what they're up to now.
Oh, we've just repositioned here to a different angle. Just still enjoying these elephants. This youngster just seems to be playing with a stick, not doing anything in particular. Could break that as easily as a matchstick if it wanted to, but
Right, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to show you that picture because I've lost my phone somewhere on my morning game drive. These things happen from time to time, so now I've got to go back and retrace my steps and go and try and track down my phone because there's no signal on it, so we can't even phone it. So this should be fun. We're going to go do a tracking of a different exercise now to go and see if we can find it. I don't know why I've lost it. It was somewhere here. I think it either happened when I got out for the bark spider, and I went to go and check it, or it happened when I got mauled by a buffalo thorn when we were driving a little bit earlier. I ended up, I was too busy looking at tracks and wasn't paying attention, and a buffalo thorn attacked me. And so I did some evasive maneuvering rather quickly, and so it might have fallen out when that happened. So I'll go back and have a look. Hopefully I'll find it. It'll be a bit sad if I don't, but you know, these things happen. Anyway, sounds like David's signal is sorted, so let's send you back across to him. So you just need to look on.
Just repositioning here again. I'm glad Tristan found his phone. Always easy to drop things out of a game viewer. Sorry for our audio or image cut a bit earlier. But it sounds like we're back on track. Just squeezing my way through here. It's been really super spending time with these elephants this morning. They seem to slowly be heading off to the east. I wonder where their plans take them today. Maybe they want to go down and chill on the Muati. We've got a bit of a stump here under us. Patricia, you've asked how old is the babiest baby elephant in this herd. I saw some pretty young ones. I'd say around a year and a half, perhaps. Maybe a year. We'll have another look now when we get another view of them. They're just in a bit of a thick spot, so I'm just skirting around the outside. But yeah, most of those youngsters seem to range between around a year and 3 years old. Tyler, you're asking what is the biggest herd of elephants I've ever seen. And that would be hard to count, but I'd say I've seen around 1,000 elephants along the Chobe in Botswana. They congregate there in massive numbers. There's a huge elephant population in Botswana. Chobe River is where they spend a lot of time. Like we were chatting about earlier, I think it's common for smaller groups to gather together, especially in areas like the Chobe. Prolific number. But yeah, personally I've probably seen about 1,000 elephants in one given place. That's obviously stretching over a huge area of open river. Just drive and just see all these massive elephants. It's quite amazing. You just everywhere you look, elephants. Of course, very destructive though. Riverbanks of the Chobe are quite barren nowadays with the population size that they have. Mike, you've said that the sticks that the elephant's busy working on there sound very rough. They must be hard to chew. No doubt, it's not easy to chew sticks and branches, but their teeth are made for it. That's why they get sets of teeth during their life, because they wear them down one after the other. Beautiful young bull here just in front of us. He's been picking away at some food. He didn't eat too much, he just smashed the bush. They do a lot of bush smashing. Nature's natural landscaping team. Teresa, you're also enjoying these baby elephants. So special to watch them in their younger years when they're still a bit wobbly and floppy. They start experimenting when they're very young and they still can't use their trunks. It's very comical to watch them. Serval, you've asked an interesting question. Do elephants mate for life or just seasonally? No, elephants definitely do not mate for life. It's not monogamous like some of the bird species we were talking about yesterday. The way elephant breeding works, they actually don't mate very often. An elephant female will have a calf, and it's a very long gestation, a couple of years, 24 months, roundabouts, and they'll only come into estrus again when that calf's 2 or 3 years old. So it ends up that they're actually only available to mate perhaps 4 or 5 days, every 4 to 5 days, about like around a week, that they're available to mate every, say, 4 to 5 years. So a week window in 4 to 5 years, not too much breeding, not too much mating that happens. That's why when you see these bulls approach these herds, they often have a walk around and scent the different females to see if they might get lucky and scent one that's in oestrus or receptive to be mated. And the most dominant bull, if there are numerous bulls, will have the right to mate. They often will fight for that right, but generally a smaller bull will give way to a larger bull if there is a herd with a female that's in oestrus. And he'll do his thing, and that's it. Nothing to do with one partner or monogamy. It's just the largest bull at the time that happens to be there in that 5-day window in the 4 to 5 year period, and it'll be him whose genes are passed on. Mike, watching these elephants is making you feel like some salad. They do eat a lot of salad to keep these massive bodies going. I don't know how tasty this would be. Some of these leaves are edible to humans, but just on their own maybe a bit bland. I'd maybe want to add some cherry tomatoes and feta and balsamic. Perhaps some baby spinach leaves. And then I could make us a decent salad with some of these trees. Talking about the elephant teeth and how what they chew is so rough. They've got to protect them though. Their molars are very dense, but they don't want them to wear out too soon. So they'll try and chew the softer green branches and roots. They wouldn't chew dead, dry, hard things. And even when they're pulling up clumps of grass out of the earth, they'll often smack them up and down a few times, as you see that one doing there. And that's just to remove the soil and the sand from the roots before they put them in their mouths, just to reduce wear and tear on their teeth. Obviously nicer to chew green grass than to chew sand. Sounds like Tristan's looped back around to his bark spider. We've had a lovely time here with these elephants. Gonna sit here a few more moments before heading off, but in the meantime, let's go have a look at that spider.
I have indeed. Well, it was good that I did because we found my phone, which is a good thing. So we managed to track an iPhone this morning with much success because we haven't managed to track anything else. But the reason we stopped at our bark spider is because it grabbed itself some sort of a meal. You can see, I can't see what it is because it's got its kind of back to us, but it went running across the web and then grabbed something and then came running back. And it looks like there is something in there. Marcel said he saw something, but I can't make out if there's an insect in there. I can't see it either, Marcel. Maybe it wasn't tasty and so it dropped it.
It might have been a dawnfly or something.
Yeah, it could have been. Could have been something very, very small that it managed to grab. I was hoping it was a biting fly that it grabbed, but alas, it doesn't seem like it was one of those, unfortunately. But the good news is at least I can show you the pictures of the leopard that I was talking about a little bit earlier. So if you have a look here, this is this male that was seen in Buffelshoek last night. He's a big, big boy. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not sure with the light. No, it's on full brightness. There we go. So that's him there. He's, you know what, Marcel, I don't know if it's going to work with this lighting, but there we go. He's a big, big boy and an adult male, but what I wanted to show you with him is that there's something quite interesting. If you look on his nose here, you see he's got a very wide nose, and he's got these two kind of peaks that come up. So it's like this little sort of upside down W or an M, I suppose, is probably a better way to put it, a very spread out one, that he's got there. And he's got this little V over his eye. Now, there's a school of thought that a lot of leopards, if they're related, share similar spot patterns that passes down. Now, this particular male, like I said, we don't know anything about him. We don't know where he comes. He was photographed by Rowan at Ngala in 2016, this particular guy. And so he's come from somewhere that side. But what I wanted to show you is this. This is a picture of Mulawati. Now, look at his nose. He's got the exact same little upturned nostrils. And he's also got a V that runs over his eye. Now, they're not the same leopard. This has got a different spot pattern, but the looks of both of these leopards is uncannily similar. And I wonder if these two are not related in some way. It would be super interesting to be to be able to get a DNA kind of test from Mulawati in terms of the scat and from this unknown male and see if there's any markers that correlate, because I have a suspicion that these two boys might be related. And wouldn't it be amazing if they're litter mates and both of them have found their way into the Sabi Sands? Wouldn't that be cool? Or if they were at least, you know, brothers from different litters, but still that they had both found their way down this side. Both of them behave the exact same way, quite skittish but viewable at night. But there's definitely something about them that looks very, very similar. And like I say, it's the nose particularly, because both of them have very wide nostril areas with these little turn-up points, which is not that common in leopards. Most leopards you see have a kind of flattened point. These two have got that sort of upturned little ridges or peaks, as well as a few spots that look very, very similar. And like I say, sometimes they say, yes, exactly, that's right. Marcel's just saying to me, the lady that did the camera traps' master's thesis is on inheriting spot patterns. That's for sure. Now, sorry, Emma, can you just repeat what you were saying? There was somebody on the game drive and Marcel talking and you talking, so... JT, it would be really, really neat if they were related. It would be very cool, but it's just something I noticed last night when I was going through the photos. For me, there's often, leopards that look similar, and then they typically have some sort of relation. If you look at like Shadow and Tundi, even Shavambalana and Mishu and Duna, they all had a very similar look, so there's kind of these things that pass through related leopards, and those two, to me, there's just too many things that look exactly the same that make me think related. But anyway, I might be completely wrong, and it's just coincidence, but it's an interesting thought for me. Anyway. Right, I'm going to go through this drainage line, which brings back so many very, very bad memories, which I'll tell you about just now. But while I do that, let's send you back across to Eric and see how his morning is panning out on his side of the world.
We've just come to check the small little pan, and we got surprised by these really cool guinea fowls that are here, and I've never really seen them react so relaxed around us. I mean, they're here, they must have been having something to drink, and now it looks like they're starting to move around a little bit more. But just look at the different individuals that you can see, the ones that are in picture at the moment. Look how little color there is around their faces. Little color there, but they've all got black and white spots. So these are basically juveniles that are just about to become adults. See there's one with a proper helmet, that classic red and blue face of the helmeted guinea fowl that we know so well. I wonder if, actually, no, I don't think so. I was going to say that it could be a spot that they decided to roost and they were just super cold and they are only moving now. But they're all nestled in and amongst a dense thicket, and they would rather nest up on a tree rather than on the ground. So I'm sure they're probably just using the thickets on the left there as cover to go and have something to drink. I haven't seen any of them. Eddie, it's also quite a scary thing to experience when we're tracking leopards through the bushes and we're looking for tracks. And out of nowhere, these 20 or 30 guinea fowls just erupt around you. You get quite a fright. So this is the small little pan. It's not the biggest one that we have in the area, but it is quite unique because it's right in amongst the thickets. And so it allows these birds to come in relatively safely, have something to drink, rather than being completely exposed out in the open. And I mean, guinea fowls would probably be cautious of birds of prey, would probably be the primary thing that they're worried about. So things like African hawk eagles would be something that would actively hunt guinea fowls, or martial eagles. Shiva, you're asking if we have any migratory birds present at the moment, and unfortunately not that we can find. I mean, the last ones that we noticed were probably the woodland kingfishers, but they've left probably about a month ago or so already. And I think most of the migratory species, especially because winter's fast approaching now, I mean, they've all started to move more and more north. So we don't see any yet. There's one bird that will actually migrate down into this area called an African stone chat, and it spends its summer times up in the the high mountain areas usually, and it will sometimes come down towards this area in the open grasslands. You'll see as an African stone chat. So it seems like most of these guinea fowls are now moving into the grass where we won't be able to see them. So I think we might just watch them for a few more moments, continue looking for any tracks or signs of that female leopard, and in the meantime we'll send you across back to Djuma.
Welcome back. We've left the herd of elephant. They were just meandering on. A large bull came towards the end there and had a look around, sniff around, see if any females were mistress as we were talking about, but nothing seemed to come of it. Everyone was very chilled and relaxed. Often you'll find those bulls trailing these female herds, generally pretty relaxed, but occasionally you'll find them in must, which we didn't chat about. It's part of that hormonal change that elephant adult bulls go through, and an elephant bull's in must, or even one or two are in must, and there's a receptive female around, the fights can be very ferocious. Lots of drama and chaos, with the larger bull and the higher hormone level generally winning over. Hormones play a very important part out here. And speaking of hormones and testosterone, we've stopped to have a look at these Impala. They're very relaxed, but they are going through a strange phenomenon this time of year called the rut, as you may very well be familiar with. Lots of grunting and snorting of these Impala running around. But this appears to be perhaps a herd of more younger, less dominant animals. There are some larger rams there, maybe they're just having a time out. Anna Marie, you're asking when will the rut be over? Is there a set date? There are no set dates, but it is more or less around this time of the year. April, May, sometimes into June, but it'll be ending pretty soon. With the 6-month odd gestation, so youngsters being born around November time. But there's definitely still lots of bellowing going on, so the rut is still on the go. I saw a little warthog at the back there, but he's now disappeared. Chilling with the Impala, often find them together. Yeah, I can see his head now. Can you see it, BK? A little bit left. Left on the Termite Mound. Oh, sorry, right. There he is. Mr. Warty. Critter Creek. Sorry, I don't know if I got that name right. You say these Impala have such glossy coats. They do have a brilliant red hue about them. Always loved Impala coloration. They actually seem to have 3 shades, from dark to light. A dark top, lighter middle, and then a white belly. Not sure if there's any specific reason for the books. Assume it could help with camouflage. Some theories about cooling. Obviously hard to prove any of that, but nonetheless, they are very beautiful animals. I believe Tristan is also looking at an antelope, so let's send you over to him and see what he has.
We have, bless you, David. We have the glossy coat of a kudu, and she is particularly glossy. The one on the right, in beautiful condition. All of our antelope species are looking so healthy after the really good summer that they've had. They're all kind of have glossy, shiny coats, and there's no more hips showing like there used to be a few years ago. So it's so nice to see the kind of recovery of nature after a hardened period like a drought. And especially in beautiful animals like kudu, I really do enjoy seeing these guys. They are big but yet so graceful, and they've got such nice sort of markings on them. The entire family really, kudu, nyala, bushbuck, all really pretty antelope, that's for sure.
Unfortunately, people don't agree with the eland one.
Eland, I like eland. I think they're really cool.
Eland are beautiful.
They are beautiful, Marcel, you're right. Especially those big bulls, when they get that blue sheen to them. Really pretty antelope. Although I must say my favorite is still a sable. That is by far, for me, the most incredible looking antelope. That jet black coat with that white tummy and those incredible horns are amazing. I just wish we saw more of them here.
I think the Afrikaans name is perfect for that.
Yeah, swart witbent. Yeah. So the Afrikaans name for it, for those of you that are not South African and are South African and don't know, a sable is called a swart witbent, which is basically a black-white tummy. So black referring to obviously the color of the body, and then the fact that they have that little white tummy, they get the white tummy name. It's the perfect name, but most Afrikaans names for animals are fantastic. I love the descriptions Afrikaans people have given animals. I think it's wonderful. Yes, exactly. Tierboskat, tronkpad, kameelpad, all of these things. Leopard, so lots of cool ones. Marcel, I think it's that time of the day where maybe we should do your fun fact before we run out of time. Are you going to jump in front?
Yeah.
Good. We need you on screen, so Marcel's going to get out and delight us with a fun fact for today. Take it away, Marcel.
Thanks, Trist. So, tokamak is a toroidal design it's a design of electromagnets arranged in a torus or a toroidal design. So basically that's donut shaped. So it's a circular cylinder, and it goes around, and that is to contain very hot plasma. So that's the leading design to actually do nuclear fusion, and it was conceptualized by Andrei Sakharov and Igor Tam in the 1950s. Yeah. And then in the 60s, when the Soviet Union built one of the very first very efficient ones, they actually published papers, and it was so efficient at that time that most of the scientific community in the world did not quite believe it, and the Soviet Union 100% invited the Americans to actually come and have a look, and even all the American findings completely agreed with what the Soviets found.
It's amazing, Marcello. Thank you for that. Marcel, you never cease to amaze me, you know that. I have spent a fair number of hours with Marcel in camp. Wouldn't you say, Marcel? We've spent quite a lot of time together. And Marcel is just full of information. I thoroughly enjoy it because you can sit and have a conversation about something, and Marcel will always pop up with some sort of interesting fact that you didn't know before, and it really just increases your ability to have general knowledge. So I thoroughly enjoy it, that Marcel knows all these things, but you really are like an encyclopedia. It's ridiculous, actually. Now,
Because of my parents.
all because of your parents. Well, your parents did good, Marcel.
They never told me anything.
Marcel says they never told him anything, so that's why he had to go. Did you go and just read all the time?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, Marcel. It's good to have an inquiring mind.
My dad told me straight, he spent 20,000 rand on encyclopedia, I better use it.
Well, you certainly made use of your encyclopedias, and now you're a walking one, which is good. So I believe you're getting a lot of compliments on the chat. So well done, Marcel. Round of applause.
Thanks.
Good job. All right, while I pick Marcel's never-ending knowledge as we slowly meander home, let's send you back across to Dave and see if Dave's got any fun facts for today.
We haven't left his Impala yet. You might wonder why. We're just looking at this ram. Look at all those wounds on his body. And we're speaking about the rat, and I wanted to chat about it a bit more. It really is an aggressive and violent time of year for these rams. And it's a long process. It starts even around Jan, Feb. They start their roaring and bleating and stomping out their little territories. It culminates around this time of year, around May. Peak of the breeding season, where these rams that have been successful will be able to mate with females. But the fighting that goes on to be able to be successful in winning a little harem or a little territory is it's quite brutal. It can sometimes even be fatal. So looking at that male that we were zoomed in on just now, just to the right, that one kind of in the middle right, he's got a lot of wounds all over his neck and on his face and on his sides and even on his rump, on his bum, which means that he was probably unsuccessful. He probably went up against a stronger male, perhaps a younger male. He's well on in his age. If you look at his horns, they're nice and thick, and the points aren't very sharp, they're a bit worn down, so he's not a youngster. And oftentimes when there's a duel and there's a victor and a loser, the victor will chase the loser and repeatedly try and stab him. That's how you get those wounds on the rump like this ram has. So he was probably a loser, unfortunately. Banished to a little bachelor herd of unsuccessful males, which is what I think this little group is. Look at that body, it's just been stabbed and pierced. They've got very tough skin. The rams have very tough skin around their necks and their heads to protect against these bouts, but sorry about that. Seems like we've had another tech issue there. But yeah, phenomenal time of year this rut. I'll try and find a group of females with a successful male. That in itself is also quite a spectacle. Very tiring for the successful male. On average they only have about 8 days or so with the herd, generally around 15 females that he can mate with, and then after that he's just completely worn out from all the fighting and mating. Often hardly even eat because they are so busy with the mating and chasing off intruders, but after a week or so they are just exhausted and they'll be replaced by another male, maybe the one that was second up or third up, which does help with gene proliferation. Lots of drama out here in the bush, and it appears that 3 warthogs have joined the family of Impala, or the bachelor herd of Impala. Some of the viewers are asking if warthogs have a similar rut to the Impala. They don't have a rut like the Impala have, but the big boars will definitely fight and joust. And definitely work for dominance, whether it's over mating or over a burrow, who knows. Just the other day in town, in Hoedspruit town, our closest town, there was a traffic jam on the way to the shops because 2 male warthogs are jousting in the road and they did not care about the cars whatsoever. Well, it's been lovely spending some time with these often overlooked yet beautiful and ugly animals. Let's send you over to Eric and see what he's up to.
We have come down into the mighty Timbavati River. You can see we're in this broad patch of open sand. And what we are doing now is just slowly driving basically upstream river, looking for any tracks of that female with her youngster, that leopard that we started off the morning looking for. And so when we were with those guinea fowls, that was sort of towards the east. We've checked the north and the west, and the last area to check is in towards where the south of where she was yesterday morning, and still no tracks. But I mean, this riverbed is often frequented by leopards, especially this female. I mean, she was brought up in this area, nice vegetation for it. Athena's asked if I've ever seen a black leopard and where do you find them. The answer is no, I've never seen one before. I think at the moment there's only photographic evidence of one black leopard that's been seen in Kenya recently. I think that was last year. And then there's quite a famous one in India in one of the national parks. I actually forget the name of the national park, but it's been around for at least 4 or 5 years, and people have been getting some incredibly good photos and videos of that male leopard. Otherwise, I haven't seen any. I haven't heard of them happening or being seen in South Africa. It would be such an incredible sighting. I think that would be absolutely incredible to see a black leopard. But first we have to try and find a normal one, and that's challenging enough. Yeah, it would be, imagine we find a black leopard on Ngala. That would be really crazy. Lots and lots of tracks here. In the sand, it's quite difficult sometimes to get the correct freshness of them, because the sand is nice and warm, and basically as soon as you walk it will start almost dissolving the track in itself. And so tracks that look very old could be quite fresh. Tracks that are quite old, that were walked on when it was wet, could preserve a lot longer. So when we find tracks of this female leopard, we just have to spend a lot of time making sure that they are the tracks of her, and they are the most recent ones passing through. Yeah. Okay, we are just briefly going to hop up and towards the riverbank and drive parallel in a lot of these tall trees where there's some shade, and maybe that's where this leopard could be resting for the day. Whilst we're searching, we'll send you across to Tristan to see if he's had any luck with leopards.
Eric, good luck. I hope your leopard pops out. I'm convinced that the leopards of Djuma have decided, I don't know what. They've left and had a party somewhere.
I'm pretty sure they've got like dimensional technology.
Dimensional technology, you reckon, Marcel? Or they've got underground tunnels that they just go in and move. But they're just not loving this property at the moment at all.
The tube of Djuma.
Exactly, the underground, or the tube of Djuma. It's amazing also how many we've tracked off the property in the last few days. It's been interesting to see how many of them have kind of walked through, and it's because it's not that they aren't here, and I mean, obviously I'm sure drive past them every now and then. The bush is still quite thick, but the problem that we have is that, you know, we get mobile in the evening and we finish at 6 o'clock, right? We get back and we drive around, and then it rolls round to nighttime, and so we kind of go home, and then in the morning we're only out at 6:30, which means that for 12 and a half hours these leopards are walking around on these roads. And so you come out in the morning and you're like, well, these tracks are pretty good. They weren't here last night, but they could be 11 hours old, 10 hours old. And a leopard can cover serious ground. In the summer months, it's actually a little bit easier because they don't have as long in the nighttime to walk, and it gets hot much quicker. And so that slows their rate of movement down. They don't walk nearly as much as they do in the winter months. So, you know, it's one of those things that'll turn. You'll see, we'll have a week then when all of a sudden every single leopard will be on Djuma, and we'll see them regularly. It's the way it goes until such time as we get to a point where water becomes a hugely valuable resource. Then the leopard viewing will become much more stable, and we'll see a lot more leopards regularly. It's also, we're in a bit of a change of dynamic at the moment. You know, we've lost a lot of the young males that were rock solid individuals for us. So we had, you know, Tamba, Hosana, who were daily sightings, Shogile at the time as well. Tandi was denning central Djuma. You know, Tingana was around a lot more. Now you've got Mulawati, who's obviously a lot more unrelaxed than what Tingana is. You've got no sign of Hosana or Tamba here. Tandi's moved off to the west, Kalamba. Well, she's just still figuring out how to become an adult leopardess. And so it's just all over the place at the moment. And it'll settle back down. Eventually it'll just change. And this is what happens as you go through these changes on properties. And it's not to say that, you know, the leopard viewing here will be terrible for a long time. It'll change pretty quickly, but it's just going to take a bit of time to settle all down again, and for the winter to take effect, and for us to start getting a bit more regular with the leopard sightings, which will be good. But I was telling you guys a story earlier. I was saying I had a horrible story about that drainage line. That drainage line used to haunt me. It was the absolute favorite place for Shadow to den. She used to use that area to den a lot. And if she wasn't denning there, then she was mating in there. And to follow a leopard through there is near impossible. And so I think that particular drainage line, I must have gotten easily 10 punctures through that drainage line over the years. And I don't know how many bent steering rods, a lot, and steering arms, all trying to follow Shadow and Tingana mating in there, or Shadow and cubs, or just Shadow. She was a nightmare in that drainage line. She loved it in there. It was terrible to try and go off-road. I used to cringe every time I saw her in that area. But funny enough, where that bark spider was, I've said this story before a long time ago, but for all the newer viewers, but Shadow was obviously a leopard that was related to Tandi. It's Tandi's sister, and she was pregnant the one time, and very close to where we saw that bark spider, there's a big tall marula, and she was sitting there with a kill. She had just made an impala kill, and she was eating away, but she was massively pregnant. I mean, she was huge at the point. And so she was eating, and all of a sudden she just stopped, and her eyes went like saucers. I mean, they went like big, big, big. And she just got up and ran all the way to that drainage line, and then down the drainage line and to a place called Red Dam. And then she went in there, and we lost her there. And so the next morning the guys drove there, and as they drove there, they saw her there with tiny, tiny cubs, newborn cubs. So they'd obviously been born, but it was almost like she forgot she was pregnant while she was eating that impala, and all of a sudden she realized, hang on a second, these things are about to come out, and went running to this drainage line to go and kind of have birth, or give birth quickly. It was very funny, but yeah, just the look on her face, the way her eyes just went from like normal leopard eyes, content eating, to, you know, that face, that emoji where there's those eyes that are like wide open, and that surprised, shocked look. It was exactly like that. It was hilariously funny. Anyway, all right, I'm just check quarantine, the western side of quarantine, see if there's any sign of some tracks in this area. In the meantime, let's send you back across to David.
Welcome back. We have stopped for something cold. A reptile. So it is cold-blooded, and it is the largest lizard in Africa. A massive Nile or water monitor. This one is not a huge specimen. They can get up to, I think it's around 2 meters in length. And similar to another one that we have here called the rock monitor. It's a little bit smaller and it's more terrestrial, more common on land. But both monitors do enjoy water. Looks like it's just found a good spot here to warm up in the sun. Remember, reptiles are exothermic, which means they derive body heat from the environment, the external environment, as opposed to us mammals that are endothermic, which means that we derive body heat from our metabolism. So even though it's nice for us to sit in the sun, it's not a requirement for us to warm our blood, unlike a reptile that has to literally warm up by the sun. Luckily we've stopped just far enough away from this so it's not too perturbed by our presence. It hasn't skedaddled off the log just yet. If we go much closer, it'll more than likely retreat to the safety of the water. Gizmo, you've asked how long can they spend in the water? Not sure how long they can hold their breath, but I think it's quite a good long time. I'll have to look that one up. Perhaps someone knows how long they can hold their breath for. But I've seen them disappear underwater and not surface for many minutes. Although of course they could swim and appear somewhere else under some riverside foliage or dam side plants, vegetation, so you wouldn't actually see them. Very, very cool creatures. Interestingly though, even though they are water monitors, they go onto dry land and actually seek out a termite mound to lay their eggs. We were chatting about termite mounds yesterday at the hyena den where we got to see those youngsters. And we were chatting about how warm those termite mounds are and how their temperature is so well regulated. So water monitors are quite similar to other species, rock monitors, tortoises even, will actually use termite mounds as a bit of an incubation chamber because termites maintain a perfect temperature in the termite mound. So a female water monitor that is ready to lay her eggs will go seek out a nice active termite mound and dig a hole and deposit her eggs. Viewers are commenting it is a perfect way to end a lazy morning drive. It has been a very relaxing morning drive. We didn't travel too far, BK and I just put around quarantine, down to Treehouse, spent so much time with those elephants. Just a beautiful elephant sighting that we weren't keen to leave. We thought we'd come back past the dam and see if there was any more on those disturbed monkeys, but still dead quiet here. We're just going to drive around the back end and see if there's any tracks coming in or out. The sun seems to be working, it seems to be warming up slowly. It's lovely with the high quality lens on the camera. You can actually see that texture in the skin. If you were to touch it, you would feel very cold and a combination of slippery and rough as those ribs and scales give that texture of the skin. I wonder what this water monitor's plan is for today. No doubt to search out some food. See what it can find. They're not too picky on what they eat. Perhaps scour the banks of the dam for perhaps some eggs, or even get lucky and catch a small fish or frog. I'll even take small birds. Not the most picky of eaters. Nancy reckon we should all take days to sunbathe like this. I think it's a great idea. Always lovely to spend your morning just soaking up the sun, something I absolutely love to do. If I'm not on drive and the sun's already up, then I love to have a coffee and just sit there and close my eyes and look at the sun. Feels like it warms your brain. Always important to remember to try and take it all in. Close your eyes, listen to the sounds, listen to the birds. Take a deep breath and smell a flower or the fresh air. Well, it's been a lovely morning with each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. And until later today, that's a cheers from BK and I.